Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good day. So we're going to revise on the UML diagrams based on analysis and design stage. So assume we have car rental app here, we have the client and we have two use cases at the beginning. Let's focus on rent car. So remember, one use case you have one sequence diagram followed by activity diagram. Then if necessary, based on the domain model, we have to choose which class has states and should have state machine. So for here, we have to talk about rental application. So we think about the object. So we need to keep the client data, rental data, car and pricing here. Okay. So for analysis, we don't consider the operation and method yet, but we focus on the attributes. So here we have the association, client make rental. We have the aggregation, car and rental. So aggregation, when we can have the car in the system, but doesn't mean it should be rented or straight away. So that's why here for aggregation, it shows that the part can exist although without the whole yet. Okay, the car data can exist although the rental is not yet, but the pricing must exist once the car object exists in the system, because once the car already registered in the system, users, clients can rent the car, so the pricing is needed. So now we go to interaction, that is the sequence diagram for client rent a car. So let's say we have the interface, the boundary here for the analysis, the entity, and we have the client where it interact with the dashboard, for example, or maybe form and so on. So in this case, let's say dashboard. So the client select the view car. So from the interface, it will call the message from the car. So the message here states that we need the service from the car, because who should display the car? It should be the car object. Then we have the car list, so the client can see it on the dashboard and start to select the car and then book the car that is selected. But of course, we need to check the ability. Is the car available or not? Okay. So here, when we check the ability, actually, we need to return the status to the user. Okay. So here we have to return the status, and of course if the status equals to 1, then confirm booking. This is the condition. So here can confirm rental, and of course we need to keep the data of the client. So we have the object client here. So what we should do, we can add profile, then create client accordingly. Okay. So for analysis, it's enough to have the boundary and showing the entity without the controller and data access layer. But if we want to add the controller, also okay. Remember, the role of the controller is to handle between the interface, the boundary, and the entity. Okay, now we move to activity. So we always for UML 2.0, we need to come up with the swim lane. So now we talk about the client, the actor and the system. Because of the interaction, we have the object already. So our activity, we can have the swim lane for the actor and the object that involved. So here, for example, we have select submenu. Okay, so let's do it let's check and make sure they correspond. So select, here we can change to select view car, for example, view car. Okay, so then we can see here select car, display car. Okay, so display car by car object, then select car, display car, then next is book car or confirm car. So we can use the same name. So we can say here book car, for example. Okay, and so on. So if we have other streamlet, so we just add partition here. Then for example, just now we have rental, so we add rental. Then here we have to, for EA, we have to do like this, choose this. Then we can have the swim lane together here. And so we have this rental come together. And whatever messages that we have in that interaction should be also added here. Okay. So now we talk about state machine. Okay. So as we know, only the classes that have certain states and the transition involved based on certain event trigger that should be captured as state machines, so that we understand actually which class have state. For example, just now we have the check ability. So for the car, we have to keep the status of the car. For example, I want to add the attribute of the car. So here I can add new. Then I say I have the status of the car that is type boolean. So I say. So now I have the okay, so we already added the status here, type boolean. So here we can see in the state machine, for example here, this is the initial. So the car is available in the car class. So if status equals to 0, that means it's rented. But now let's say status transition. So we have here the card. So we say status equals to 1. So this is where we can show the availability that we want the client to check. So if status equals to 1, automatically it goes available. So this is what state machine should do in your diagram. Okay. So now we move into the design stage. So when you come to design, actually you detail out, like here you add the operation, then you also need to detail out your client ID type integer, for example. Okay, so client name type string. Okay, then you say. Okay, then here you can see in design you are detailing the what you've done in the domain model. Now we call it class diagram, design class diagram. So for rental, what else do you need? For example, I also need the date of the rental. Okay, so here the type date is not available, so we assume we have the date here. Okay, so you keep the date of the rental, for example. Okay, and so on. So here when you come to the interaction, you need to elaborate. In design, you need to elaborate further. Now, for example, you have to add the controller. Okay, so the controller is here. You can add. So here, the object controller will be, for example, you call like rental manager or handler. Okay, so now we have to detail out further our sequence diagram to consider also the handler. So we need to edit accordingly. So that's why handler also can be added earlier. Then you have to adjust accordingly based on the introduced. And of course, later you need the data access. Okay, so data access, we can use this one. So here is, for example, client DA. Okay, so this is the data access layer where when in design, we actually can provide more detail over here to save to the data access layer. Besides this will be the entity. So this will be the boundary and this is the handler. So remember the role of the handler is to be the interface between the boundary and the entity internally. Okay, so we need to adjust this accordingly in terms of the message. Okay, so we need to move the message to the handler. So from the interface to the boundary to the handler and then to the entity. It should be like this. Okay, and so on. So we need to refine that in our design stage. Okay, that is direction. So then we need to come up with the domain model. Remember we mentioned about package diagram. So here you have your classes being divided into corresponding package or module. Okay, so for client, maybe we have one package or subsystem called customer. Anything about customer, we put the classes in the customer package or subsystem. And then we have rental and car just now. Remember? So we have rental and car. So we group rental and car into car rental subsystem. Then we have pricing. We keep it in payment. And how they are linked? If you see here, we have rental car, client to rental, rental to car. Client to rental, rental to car, yes. And of course the pricing come from the link with the car. Okay, so this is where when we group the classes into subsystem and we draw the package diagram, they come up with the relationship where from the customer to the rental, then to the payment because of the pricing here. Okay, so this is the whole thing about the UML. So remember, package diagram is in your design stage. So you actually, here you don't show the attributes, is not necessary. You just show the class name when you group them accordingly into the packages. So remember the good design principle is low coupling, high cohesion. So anything that related should be grouped together into one subsystem or package. I think that's all for the revision. I hope you understand more about UML diagram now.